Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with the Superlative Podcast. Please listen to aBlogtoWatch's other podcast, aBlogtoWatch Weekly, where we talk about the latest watch news and reviews. Today on Superlative, my guest is the founder of Ressence, Benoît Mintiens. Benoît, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
So the reason I asked you on the show is very simple. We always have these great conversations in private. I was like, you know what? We need to record this.
This is gonna get touchy now, huh?
And I always find you at what I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, are some of the most high emotion moments of your year. And that is in the halls of Watches and Wonders or at any watch show. My guess is that this is when your emotions are at their greatest. Or am I wrong? Is this actually a very neutral time for you emotionally?
Well, we're 15, so I've done it 15 times since. So it starts to get a routine somewhere. But no, it is for sure a very important moment for the year because we show the products that we will introduce and get the first reactions, live reactions from the market and from the journalists like you. Where we see really, okay, what's going to be the potential of what we decided 2 or 3 years ago. So it is a very important moment, certainly, even though, year by year, you start to get into a certain logic, and okay, this is there are less question marks, I would say, but nevertheless, a
Does
new
that
product
mean that
is always opening your soul.
When you had less shows under your belt, did you have maybe different expectations and you've now moderated some of those expectations?
Usually I have very low expectations, so the result can only be better than, or at least okay. Typically this year, during the show, the new tariff system was introduced for the watchmaking industry, so was big panic. We had, of course, the USA for us is between a quarter to a third of our business. So it is still a very important market for us. So if things start to disrupt radically, what is quite the case, you're a bit, you feel a bit uneasy about it as a company, because again, when we introduce the watches at Watches and Wonders, for example, because that's where we usually meet, the production has already started 6 months, maybe 9 months before. There is the whole artillery has been launched, and now suddenly there's nothing. So it is. So this year was a bit worrying about that. But yes, it's always interesting to do these shows, and you really feel that how the industry is evolving during the atmosphere that you have. Talk with all your colleagues. You hear the feedbacks from people that you usually don't talk with, and it's a very, very interesting moment. It's a bit like the bees coming back to the how do you call this, where the bees live?
Hive.
The hive, and they all mix up and they with each other, and it's interesting. You always get smarter after.
I've been thinking a lot about these trade shows over the last couple of years because I think it's interesting how quickly they bounce back after something like the pandemic where they couldn't happen. And there were a number of voices. I was not one of them. I don't think you were one of them, but there was a number of voices like, who needs what trade shows? We have Zoom. We have email. We could just video you a little recording over and the product. And almost immediately when shows were allowed, people started going back. Now there's probably more watch shows than before the pandemic, right? And the number is growing even more to the point that people can't even go to them all. And I think that's in some ways good, but of course there's some elements that are unsustainable. An observation I made that I'd like your opinion on is the biggest brands, and of course, as a result, many of the smaller ones, seem to really only want to release product at shows. Or maybe rather, they would love to release it out of the show, but those releases have relatively little impact. Only the releases at the show have the type of impact that they want. Therefore, they continue to go to the shows to release products for other reasons as well. Do you notice that the show is a very important period for product releases?
Ariel, it's the power of the mass. And when everyone goes one direction, you get an energy that you cannot generate on your own. The attraction of a show is, of course, there are new things, but it attracts people because there are new things. But if there are many new things, it will attract a lot more people, and so you get a very the snowball effect basically when you have these shows. And this is what I think happens during these shows. That's the magic of these shows. And yes, you could say, yeah, there is Zoom, there is this or that, but still we are social creatures. And the relations that we have, we know each other since the start of Ressence, or maybe or nearly. But your colleagues, the retailers we work with, we worked for more than a decade with them. It's nice to see them. It's nice to physically see them. They're far away for us. They're on the other side of the world. We cannot see them all the time. We cannot meet them all the time. You get a certain energy in these shows that is very positive. The show we're talking about, which is the one, is very well organized. It's nice to be there. The environment is beautiful. The people are nice, are in a good mood. So all these things add up and generate a real good energy that you can never have with Zoom, or you can never have with any other digital mean. We are social animals, and this is how we work, and this is how we are constructed. So stop putting us in a box with a screen and a camera in front of us, because it will never have the same effect, I think.
No, I agree. I just find it interesting that a lot of resources went into digital only watch industries. And again, it's ironic for someone like me to say that, because I'm a digital publication, yet I fully acknowledge we are maybe necessary, but we're not the entire equation. We do not entirely fulfill someone's needs when it comes to watches. We might teach them about a product and might educate them about how to understand it, but someone, in my opinion, has to see it in person to fall in love with it. Like, I feel that's a crucial step. And I think that's, inescapable from this reality, from this industry.
Yeah. Again, it's we are social creatures, and I really think that the whole logic, the fact that you are there, is because there is a demand for it. And the fact there are still magazines, and their publicity in these magazines of watches means there is also demand for that. So I think it's just a new channel. It's a new channel that was whoop, and then now it's stabilized, and you're part of the equation as a medium, as a system, as an information source. There are others, and people, they get their information from different channels, and digital is one of them, but paper is one of them, and human interaction is also one of them.
So congratulations again on the 15 years. At the time when you started, what did you think was going to be the way that not only people were buying Ressence watches, but that you were selling them to the people that were selling them to end consumers? What was your outlook on what your job was going to be like to make money?
Yeah, it's very different, I have to say. Very often, for example, I was in the US 1 week ago for 2 weeks, actually. Sometimes you say, well, what I'm doing now, I would never have thought when I started the brand that I would be someone in a dinner with collectors, with people that are buying my products and that want to know more about it. These are things I could not extrapolate. The roles I have, the things I do on a daily basis are so much wider. The fact we are having this discussion, you can never. I thought 15 years ago that I would have these type of interactions.
Why not exactly?
Because my background is not watchmaking, and I'm not from that industry. I was an industrial designer. I worked as a consultant inside a company. I wasn't public as a person. I wasn't the face of a company or a brand. I was just a consultant working B2B with other companies. I designed products for. So I could not imagine this whole showbiz side of the business that it comes with the job. For example, there are many other things. The difficult relation you can have with subcontracting, the very positive relations you can have with your clients, the relationships you build, all these things. It's very hard actually to extrapolate yourself in a completely new business product environment. Everything actually is very different. I still design the watches myself. That's my background. I still do it. It's less and less easy to find.
But that's
time
what
to
you
do
love.
it.
The design is what you love.
That's my thing. That's what I love to do. But on the other side, I need to run a company. So I'm not alone, Ariel. We're
let me make
here.
an observation here, Benoît. And I'm so glad that you brought this up. And I'm going to sort of focus on the word show business you said, and I completely agree that the process of getting people excited about and thus selling them a luxury product is a lot like creating a performance, trying to get an emotion, and then having them want more of that by buying the thing. Now, you and many other watchmakers, designers, brand owners, CEOs, whatever, are going around the world doing the actual storytelling and the selling, which is not what people in those positions are supposed to do. You're correct. It is indicative of an industry who has stripped out so much of the middleman that now the boss has to also do the selling. It is fatiguing, and it is not something that you should be doing because it pulls you away from what you should do. But again, the amount of this, it happens at many brands, not just Ressence, is because that there is not a system of marketing, well-paid salespeople. So much of that has been cut out that because of that, all the responsibility is now on your shoulders and those of the other entrepreneurs. And it can be changed, but that's the core reason, in my opinion.
It's not only in watchmaking, first of all.
Sure.
What I see is that watches are very emotional products. And when you sell an emotional product, it's hard to, it's easier, or maybe whatever. It's more logical, I think, to have in front of you the person that incarnates these emotions in the best way, or can that translate them in the best way. And in my case, it's easy for me to do it because I created everything and I know exactly why I did it, and I can explain all the reasons that are behind it, and the little stories, because people like to hear little stories.
Sure.
Because it makes it more lively. So all these things, in the end, I was invited by Apple a few weeks ago. Look at Steve Jobs. He was a star. He was running a company, but Steve Jobs was a like an extreme example. I hope I will never be a Steve Jobs, because I admire him, of course, but I also hope that the system Ressence can run without me being present everywhere. I see what you mean. Sometimes I have the impression that some brands are built around a person, and I didn't call Ressence Benoît Mintiens. I called it Ressence for a good reason. It's exactly because I believe that I should not be the face of the brand. I am today because of the size of the company, the fact that we're a small team, and so it's very efficient to do it this way. But I hope one day that you will buy a Ressence like you would buy maybe a Porsche. Whatever, you don't need to see the CEO to buy a Porsche. But I think, for example, many people bought a Tesla because of Elon Musk. So I hope I will not be that, because the day Elon Musk is not popular, suddenly the sales drop of Teslas. Whereas the CEO of Porsche, whatever he does, it will not change. It will not have any impact on, because there is a whole system behind it. And so yes, it's true what you say, and the starification of people in the industry is a fact. And I think it's not necessary, certainly not for the larger groups. I don't see why they need to do that. Honestly, I really don't know why they do it. For small companies like us, like independent brands, it's more logical, because we come with something new, a new vision, a new thing. There is a guy behind it or a girl behind it that incarnates it before it can move on to a more to the team or to a more larger and simplify the message. Ariel, is also
the reality is even though some of those groups might look big and mighty and very, very rich compared to a small company, the reality that I found is that they're not particularly that much more effective in their messaging, in their marketing, in their storytelling. Oftentimes, you're doing just as good a job, if not better, in your efforts. Y'all make press releases. Y'all go to the same, events. You're all meeting with effectively the same people. In a lot of ways, your price points aren't that dissimilar, So I wouldn't say that they have that much power. In fact, in some ways, they struggle. And I've mentioned this many times. And I show that despite the powers of these big groups, none of them, not LVMH, Richemont, Swatch, whatever, has an in-house media arm. They all rely on external media while not wanting to pay for it at the same time. They have a complete dysfunctional relationship with it. And I call it dysfunctional because they, on the one hand, show how much they need it, demonstrate in a lot of business ways how much they need it. But the other side, I'll be like, oh, no, we want the free coverage. I'm like, these aren't government institutions. They don't have grants. They don't have subscriber bases. Like, you guys got to pay the bills of those content creators or else they're going to do something else. Yeah, and anyways, that's part of their fractious relationship. I'm simply saying, don't think that they have it all figured out. They need the shows just as much as you, is my point. Now, you said something very interesting about, popularity, people acknowledging that they bought maybe a product because of a personality or a famous celebrity or something like that. And this, in my mind, brings up something important that I've thought about, and it's not like hard science, but for me, it's sort of a rule I've come up with, and that is no more than 10% of the population is ever going to understand the desirability of a product, a tool, a machine, art, because outside of its merit. Only 10% are going to understand it because of its merit. Everyone else is not going to understand it for its merit. That 10% is also hard to reach. Some of them are curious, but ultimately getting them to understand your story is really, really hard. The rest of the population, the 90% that cannot understand something on its merits, but they can understand almost all the time, is genuine human enthusiasm. They can understand popularity. They may not know why people are into something, but they sure as hell can figure out if people are into it. So the difficult job of any watch brand is simultaneously getting that 10% of people who care about substance to understand the details, to find what the virtues are, and then convince the other 90% that the 10% cares about that thing. And that's, I've never really heard it spoken about other than the way I talk about it, but that's, I think, the core job of most of the marketing. And I don't think most brands do that full job perfectly well.
I think, Ariel, most people buy a watch for the brand, not for the product.
Well,
and
yeah,
that's
I
perfect.
agree. I just told you. Yeah.
It's perfect, and it's perfect.
But why do they want that brand to begin with? Yes, they want it for the brand, but what makes them want a brand?
For a simple reason, it's the aspirational side of it. It's the fact that they feel more reassured about wearing this type of product.
But there needs to be deeper answers. There needs to be deeper answers. Why?
Again, we're social animals, Ariel. A watch is a status symbol. Why do you wear this brand? Why do you wear that brand? Why do you buy that type of car brand? Why do you drive that?
There's answers to all these questions, is my point.
There are answers to all these questions, and most people, let's be honest, they don't care what's inside the watch. They just buy a brand. They buy an accessory. Why do you think watchmaking did not change the system architecture of a watch in 100 or maybe 150 years? It didn't change, not at all. There's still a movement, a barrel, a hands.
You changed
a dial,
it. You tried at least.
Yes, of course, I tried to change it, but the industry does not need it, because we are not selling. Most of the companies in my business are not selling watches. They're selling a brand, and it's perfect. They understood something that is very, very important when you do business, is why are your customers buying your product? And if it's not because of what's inside, if it's because of the value of the brand, perfect. Don't put money in the product. Put money in the brand. And for us, we would not, as independent brands, we would not exist. Would this 90% not be there? Because only a little bit of that 90% will evolve eventually to a product that is more complex, that goes deeper than just the skin on the outside, the color or the name of the brand on it. But they would not be attracted to our industry. Would there not be this very big investment that all these large mainstream brands do to attract people to watchmaking? Yes, we are in an ecosystem, and in an ecosystem, you always have the edge of the ecosystem, and you have the inside of the ecosystem. And our ecosystem is a marketing ecosystem. That is why you have CEOs that need to play rock stars. That is why we are in that system. But we as independent brands, we are really at the edge of it. We are trying to do new products, and everything is basically different from what mainstreaming is doing. I sometimes compare it to explain it also cost-wise, explain the logics. If I say that the system architecture is the same for 150 years, where you have a Ressence where completely different system architecture, this is a cost. And there's a reason why everyone is having this base system, this architecture, because it's cheaper. If everyone does the same system, the machines to make these parts will be also cheaper because they're all the same. And the logic, the people that are trained to do it, they will all do the same. It's like the car industry. I always take that example because I think watchmaking and car industry is very, very similar. If all cars have four wheels and engine in the front, the door panels in this way, they will be cheaper because all the cars in the world have the same system architecture. And if you change one thing, for example, instead of having the engine in the front, you put it in the back, you have a completely new system for the car industry. So that means that the assembly chain will be different. The machines to do it are different. The people that you took from another company, well, you'll need to retrain them because your cars are very different. And that is why the cost is different, only from that perspective. And then you have another thing is that, and this I'm talking about my part of the industry, meaning independent watchmaking. If you make the same products for 50 years, and you still have the system architecture and basically the technique that is 50 years old, you still do that. Well, and then you compare that to companies like us that, where not one single component in our watches, maybe except the screws, are comparable to any other watch. And you have a very small production compared to a mass production. You cannot. In the end, you will have two completely different ways of defining a product that is called a watch, a wristwatch.
So let me give some context for the audience here. You're trying to describe how your brand has attempted to fit in, but also some of the built-in challenges. You did not want to be a car that had that standard layout. You wanted to be something that drove on the road, but that did it all that quite differently than the standard object. And then to materialize that and then continue to materialize that, refine upon that idea, you've hit a lot of roadblocks. And it sounds like a lot of people who fundamentally were against the vision of let's do this differently and made you want to do things, pushed you like, hey, Benoît, you're great and all, but could you do more of the round case and the movement and the similar thing that we're used to? Why do you got to be so different, Benoît? Is you experienced a little bit of that?
Why do you get to be so different, Benoît? For the simple reason that Benoît thinks very differently than most watchmaking people. Most watches were designed by watchmakers. Watch brands were created by watchmakers. Name me a brand. Probably it's going to be a watchmaker that is at the starting point of that brand.
Well, why do you make such a distinction between you and watchmakers?
Because,
yes, you may have not gone to watchmaking school, but yeah, go ahead.
Because the whole approach, Ariel, is different. If you are a watchmaker, the core of your business is the movement. That's why you start. That's why watchmakers like to show the movement, and it is beautiful. Let's be honest, it's amazing what some are doing. But for them, that's the core of their trade. That's what makes them tick. Where when you're an industrial designer, you look at the product from the user point of view. Why do I make a watch? My first question is, why do you buy one? What's the reason? What's the function? And so you don't start with the movement. Actually, the movement is, I will exaggerate here, but would be the last thing I will consider. The first thing I would
go from the outside in, and you're saying a watchmaker goes from the inside out. That's the fundamental distinction.
Correct. That's a fundamental difference. And of course, the result can only be different.
Of course.
And so if you said you also want to do a car, and if the car we make, we try to make a better car. We don't try to make a more beautiful car. We don't try to make a more luxurious car. We try to just make it a better car, better driving car. It's very different. Again, I will compare it with cars because it's easier to. If you ask a watchmaker, please design a car, he will, of course, start with the engine, will make a good chassis, suspension should be good, it needs to be a safe car, good brakes on it, etc., put a body on it, like cars were designed 50 years ago. They had a chassis and then they put a body, literally a body on it, and then you have an interior finish. Ask a designer to design a car, it's a very different. I will not start with the engine or things. I will start with a simple question. How do you want to feel when you drive that car? No one asks that question in watchmaking. How do you want to feel when you drive that car? I want to feel safe,
you don't think so?
Actually.
You think people don't ask that question?
I don't think so, because otherwise watches would not be like they are today.
I mean, most people don't ask. Some do. Some.
I guess. I'm exaggerating a little bit to make my point. Ariel, isn't it the idea of your podcast?
Me? Superlative is the best because you've not exaggerated, but you've discarded all the others. And look, when it comes to your niche, you are the best. You're underselling yourself. You came in with a new idea and you worked tirelessly to make it work. You're right. You didn't have this idea of this movement, but you made some of your weird movements, there's multiple of them, to make your idea work backwards than most watchmakers. And I agree, that's a fundamental distinction. I think that many people are, of course, familiar with designers because everyone listening to the show has something in their home that is created in their respective field by a passionate designer like yourself. In watchmaking, I think you are absolutely correct that people don't ask enough questions to themselves of why they like something and why they're doing something, especially why they're designing something. And that's been my number one complaint with most brands. When I see a watch I don't like, I ask them, it's like, who is supposed to wear this? Who is this for? I forget what you're supposed to feel. Who is supposed to even wear this thing? And usually nobody answers. I'm like, no wonder this sucks. So I totally get it.
I think we are in an ecosystem, and what we do, I don't think we are more right than the others. It's just I try to explain why we do it, and the reason behind it is because we think and we look at product development and product design in a very different way than watchmaking does it in general.
What are you trying to do? 15 years ago, you started with something. Has the core mission of Ressence stayed the same? Has it changed? I think it's a very good thing. Explain to people what the goal is in your words.
Actually, what I do in a very short sentence, would we have the elevator pitch together, Ariel? I would tell you that Ressence is applying industrial design thinking to fine watchmaking. That's basically what we do. And the consequence of that is that functionality, ergonomics, all these aspects are at the core of what you do. That's why a Ressence dial has no hands. That's why a Ressence watch has no crown sticking out. That's why a Ressence watch is super light. That's why we use titanium on our watches, not heavy materials. The future is lighter, not heavier. So all these logics that industrial design is applying to any other product, basically we translate that, because you cannot just do one, but we translate these methodologies of thinking and designing to fine watchmaking. That's basically what I do.
So I want to know, between two projects, which was more challenging? So these are not the only two complicated projects you did, but two of them. And I have no idea, actually, which was more challenging or frustrating for you. On the one hand, you have the oil-filled watches. They're not all oil-filled, but you have some, the 5, of course, is oil-filled. Or the e-crown, the electronic crown system, which is a whole discussion unto itself. Which of those two, to you, was more complicated to work out?
Maybe you can look. So how much gray hairs I have on this side and how many gray hairs I have on this side.
You're looking good.
Well, I paint my hair, you know. I painted my hair this morning for you. Otherwise, I'm completely gray. Yeah? No, it's a good question, and I think that I think Type 2 was more complicated. So because it's electronics, and
the e-crown.
For me, e-crown was a real challenge for me. For a reason that is not related to the electronics, actually. The reason why this project was more challenging is because of the scale of everything. So if you take the scale of a Type 3 with oil inside, you take any part in that watch, a gear, whatever, you take that same function, that same part like a gear, and you put that, and you take that from the Type 2, the e-crown watch, that part will be half the size. And so everything is half, basically, to fit in nearly 500 components in such a thin watch. It's only 52 grams. There are nearly 500 components in it. It's all very, very, very small. And when you talk about smallness, of course, you start to have tolerance issues, things like that. And of course, the functionalities that the Type 2 has are very superior. Of course, completely new. There's no one that did that. So you have to invent the wheel basically with these type of products. It's a tough one because the Type 3 wasn't easy to, but that was way before. So I knew more when I did the Type 2 than I did the Type 3. So circumstances are not completely the same too.
The Type 2, of course, for those that don't know, was your attempt to marry sort of a electronic timekeeping system with a mechanical watch, where you had an electronic system that would essentially adjust the time, but it was still a mechanical heart. It was an amazing thing. It's been a few years now, and as it is with technology products, people expect upgrades and updates each several years. Yep. Was that a one-time thing, or are people saying, "Hey, let's do some more"?
Ariel, I think that one of the thing that characterizes us as an industry, I mean, fine watchmaking, is the fact that we make products that are designed to run 25 years. That's how we design them, all of us. So if you make a
All
watch
of
where
you?
you put, well, yeah, that's if you. That's what we try to. Actually, this is how it's built. Let's say.
I mean, I've never heard anyone say that until now. I'm glad you're saying that. That
why
sounds
not?
great.
Because this is the reality. The quality of the materials that we use, the way a watch is built, is not something that is worn out in a year. For sure not. So yes, a watch should a fine watch is supposed to be a very qualitative product. So if you take that as a consideration and as a starting point, and you decide to introduce electronics, of course people associate electronics with programmed obsolescence. And the Type 2 is exactly the opposite. So I would compare it. For example, I'll take cars again, with an automated gearbox in your car. So you had manual shifts like the Crown, and Ressence invented the automatic gearbox for the car. We didn't change the car, we didn't change the engine, we didn't change all the rest. Everything's the same. It's just the gearbox that we have automated with that watch. And that doesn't mean that in 4 years this gearbox doesn't work anymore. Even though there's electronics to run that gearbox, it will still work. And you can buy a car that is 30 years old with an electronically automated gearbox. It will work perfectly. So it's not because electronics are involved that it's per definition obsolete in 6 months. Electronics work perfectly, endlessly long, as long as you don't start to update the software all the time. But we are so used to the fact that when we buy a product, we have to update every 6 months. Why do we do that? It's just simply because you get obsolescence by doing it, because they put more and more and more and more things in that software, making sure that your old product doesn't work anymore or doesn't work well anymore, and you're pushed to buy a new product. But that's the logics of electronics very often, unfortunately, because from an ecological point of view, it makes no sense at all. So I think that electronics is not per se in opposition to mechanical watches. Not at all. You have so many products that involve electronics that are today maybe 40, maybe 50 years old. They still work because we didn't update them all the time.
Yeah, I've anticipated. I don't know when it's going to happen. It could be for a while, but eventually I think there's going to be a new type of high-end watch on the market, which is basically the dumb electronic watch. And it's going to rely on, the non-software based electronic systems, or the like extremely basic software. And they're going to be something that we appreciate, almost like we appreciate a mechanical watch, because we can see how they work. We can understand these things. It's not, here's the microprocessor and all the hard work is going on in there. So I agree that that's sort of another area that I hope people are going to get into it. But my question is for you. You've been almost exclusively mechanical watches. And one could look at your concept and see how you like to tell time and said, there's a lot of systems out there that are electronic, motor-based. I know this French company, Silmac, that does these interesting little silicon-based electronic stepping motors and things like that. Why not adopt some of that technology to express your vision, potentially in a more affordable way, but in some senses, maybe even more reliably, because you're not trying to do things using traditional mechanical systems? No doubt you've thought about that before. What has stopped you from seriously addressing that? Is it because you have to sell the watches at a lower price? That means you'd have to make more of them. I mean, there's so many considerations, but I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. So there are two things in your question: is the reduce the cost, and why we didn't do it. But so first of all, I'm not so convinced that by using more electronics, the watch will be a lot cheaper, because the way we represent time, it will still be a complicated part to make.
Tiny tolerances, none of that's going to change.
So unfortunately, it's going to have a small effect, but what you will lose is a lot bigger, and what you will lose is the empathy. And Ariel, I'm not so sure about what you say about. I hope that one day there will be electronic watches like high end. The problem that you have, and you are too much in watchmaking, maybe, but most people will have a lot higher empathy for mechanical things than for digitally or electronic things. And the simple reason is that we don't understand what's happening in a processor. We don't understand what's happening in a transistor. What we understand, even if you're not technical, you will understand the gear. You will understand how gears work, and you will have some feelings for the fact that, maybe there is dust, or maybe there's not enough oil. Everyone understands these. Even if you're not a technical person, you will perfectly relate to that. So, and then comes, of course, the logics of how we all think. We think with products. We think the same way as with humans. If I understand you well, and if I have a good relationship with you, I will tend to have more empathy for you than a person next to you that speaks a language I don't talk, that reacts in a very strange way to me, and that suddenly stops talking to me, and I don't understand why he stops or she stops talking to me. We will have a very different relationship. And let's never forget, a watch is a product you have a relationship with. So the more you use techniques, things, instruments, and ingredients in your watch that are for people to relate to generate more empathy, to generate a stronger relationship, you will have a better product. You will have a product that for sure will generate more emotions. Basically, that's what you try to do.
Mm-hmm. We totally agree. I just think that in the future, people will be able to have the empathy for those things, because this will be a whole generation of people that know what the inside of a computer looks like, and
they don't know.
See smartwatches everywhere. Maybe
they don't. No, they don't.
The gear does not remind you of your internal organs. It's just because they've been around for hundreds of years. It's a matter of cultural sink-in. It's okay. Well, neither of us know.
Because your bicycle, if you ride your bicycle, you have gears on the bicycle. You see them physically.
Yeah.
And you see what they do. They have little teeth, and they attach to the chain of your bike. Everyone understands these things. Even if you're not technical and you don't want to talk about, you don't want to see it, you will still understand the gear, what they do. Whereas if you don't want to understand, or if you even have a vague interest in electronics, try to explain me how a transistor works, Ariel. I challenge you. It's for most people, it's just an abstract thing in a transistor. Even for me, it's an abstract thing. It's so small. It's a fraction of a virus, the size of a virus. It's so small. You cannot have any relationship to these things. And if you don't have these relationships, if you don't have empathy for things, if you don't understand them, you will not have a relationship with them. It's very, very hard.
I mean, we agree. We just don't necessarily agree in what the relationships people will have in 20 or 30 years from now. All I can say is let's wait and find out. We agree on the emotions people have. We agree that they need to connect to it, no doubt. I just think that they'll have more of a connection.
Maybe Ressence watches will be 100% digital by then. So we'll see.
Look, maybe. I mean,
we'll see.
It surprises me how few companies have say, let's go sell like smartwatch dials with our logos on it. A few of them have a little bit, but I thought they would have jumped onto that a lot more. Or companies say, let's make brand new dials. It's a slow thing. I sometimes see some of these things a little bit ahead of it. I admit that it takes a while, but we'll see. But again, this is you as the futurist, right? Because a lot of people, when you came onto the scene, you don't speak like a revolutionary, but you very openly said, I'm challenging the model that you expect a watch to be. I'm challenging the idea of what a luxury watch in this space is supposed to be. I'm challenging what a complicated movement is. I'm challenging your notions of legibility. I'm challenging your notions of shape. So you benefit from this expansion and open-mindedness of empathy, right? You wanted people to empathize with something that, again, a lot of people didn't know the feelings. Ultimately, I think people understood what you were trying to do and liked it. And so your confidence and your determination paid off at the end. But you were asking people to be open-minded to, a very radically new concept, especially for many people in the space.
Many of our customers are people that are maybe not specially attracted to the industry of watchmaking, but they're attracted to products. And that's a big difference. But it's a minority of people, of course. Again, I think the majority of people, they buy a brand, they don't buy a watch. It's perfect, because would they not be there? I would not be there. But the whole logic that we have is that, you can go further, you can go deeper, you can dig into things. And it's a little more cerebral, it's a little more thinking, it's a little more conceptual, it's a little more, there is a little more to it. For some people, they don't care. And it's perfect. They just don't care. They just want a nice thing on their wrist and they want to feel good with it. And that's it. And that's perfect. But some people, like our customers, they care. They care and they say, well, I don't want to just wear something on my wrist with a brand on it. No, I want to go further. I want to understand what I have here. I want to see how it works. I want to be, I'm a curious person very often as a customer, and I want to discover new things. And so, yes, we have a different type of customer, and that's all I do. And between us and between all of us here now, I think it's the thing I'm most proud of. It's the customers we have. We did that book for our 15th anniversary. Most of the people in that book are our customers. I didn't pay them to buy a watch. They just went to a retailer and they bought the watch. And these people, they have minds that are shaping our world. Basically, they're shaping the new way our worlds will be defined. And so yes, I'm super humble and thankful to have these type of people wearing our products and associating themselves with it.
Could you give an example of what you mean when you say people that are shaping the world?
I don't want to give names because it's not. They didn't. I didn't pay them.
What do they do? How are they shaping?
Well, they are. What do they do? They change the way services are defined. They change the way we interact with technology, the way that we live our lives. Basically, they invent new concepts that everyone is embracing. The consequence very often of what they do is that they disrupt complete industries that were there for 100 years with their new ideas. And it's super efficient and it works better and it's good that they came. There are other customers that are maybe creative people that are maybe just always on the lookout for something different. So that's another type of customers that we have. But the first category I just mentioned, yes, are people that are also creative people. They came with an idea that no one had. They connected the dots that no one connected until then, and were able to make a product out of that and go on the market and be super successful. So successful that, it destabilized whole industries with their ideas. There are so many examples in the world today, and you're well placed where you live around you. There are many companies like that are changing a lot of industries because of their new concepts and their new ideas. And many of these people are our customers. So I am of course extremely thankful that and grateful that these type of people want to associate themselves with a brand like Ressence.
What do they tell you they like about the brand? What are some types of feedback they say? What are some surprising things you've learned about how people associate your brand?
I think it's the thinking, the different thinking that they appreciate. I cannot really say one thing. It's more the approach that we have, the challenging the status quo, coming with something new in an industry that didn't change for a century. So it's more, I think they are in the same mindset. Very often they're like, okay, it was always done like this, but now I have this idea, this ingredient, this new thing called digitalization or whatever. Well, let's apply that to this industry and see what comes out. And that's basically what we do. There is an industry that's the same for 100 years. And then there is, industrial design. Okay, how do you apply that to this? And what is the consequence? What comes out of that? That's basically what creative people are doing. And then, of course, you need the energy to push it through and to get to all these barriers that you can have with established industries that have certain rules and certain systems. When you come with something completely new, well, for sure you will meet resistance. But they overcame because what they did made more sense. That's it. Point. And today we accept it, but 10 years, 20 years, 15 years ago when they started, everyone was like, what? Don't touch this. So it's a very, that's what I like about the people I meet, because in the end, I meet these people when I travel, and the stories they have are very, very interesting. And of course, it inspires everyone. And that's what we wanted to share with for our 15th anniversary, to share the vision of the future of, we took 20 people, with very different industries, but to share that with all of you and say, look, we see it today, but what's coming? Never forget, our tagline is ahead of time. So we asked them, think ahead of time, or tell us ahead of time what your industry is going to. This book is not about us. It's not about our watches. It's only about the visionary thinking of most of them, again, customers we have, and that we're happy.
Congratulations on that book. I'm just curious, do you think that there should be more industrial designers, especially those like you who really value the education behind it, in the watch industry space? Do you think that would be a positive thing?
Of course, because what the downside of trying to do something completely different is that you have to fight against many, many things that are installed, that are there. If we are more, and that's I think the strength of being the independents now. That's why we are let's say a positive thing in the industry for the moment. It's because we're a group. And if I would be alone there, I think I would not exist anymore. And if, let's say, a BNF would be alone, maybe it would also be harder for them. But as we are a group, and we all have a position in that group, it becomes more attractive and it becomes more credible. Is that English? That people believe in it more.
It legitimizes it.
Yeah, it legitimizes it. Yes, indeed. You're not marginal anymore. There is a movement here, and this is, I think, also a very positive thing about the evolution in our industry. So yes, why not having more industrial designers? And let's be honest, there are examples. Look at Uurwerk. I think Martin Frey is a very, very, very good designer. Yeah. He's applying it also to fine watchmaking in a different way than we do it, but he's also applying this logic of industrial design. And I just said MBNF, but Max Busser is also working with very good designers. So they are there. It's just maybe they're not the face of the brand, but there are many good designers already trying to change things in fine watchmaking. It's just that maybe they're less visible, but you see it. The products are different. They are not designed with the same mindset of a Breguet. They have been designed with the mindset of someone from the 21st century. And so that's what you see.
What I've always thought was a bit of a shame was that the people like yourself who have that vision oftentimes have to literally start your own company if you want to realize that vision, then find a company that already makes that thing, right? And it's like, no, we know best. Why? Because someone in our past knew how to sell something, and we assume that that's going to work forever. And you and I both know, because we're active in this space from a social perspective, people who are creatives and people who follow those good principles of design are like the first to run away from those brands, right? Like they're so difficult to work at. They're so stifling. And people are forced to like find money somewhere else or mortgage their home and try to start a brand just because that big corporate group who they could probably help make a lot of money is too stubborn, or whatever you want to call it.
There's so many examples in the industry that are comparable to that, and they're not all designers. They're very often they are just engineers that had a good concept and came. There are really many examples of that, and they became super successful because the company they worked with didn't believe in what they suggested, or what the idea maybe didn't fit, because you should never forget that a company is more than ideas. A company is also processes. It's a factory. As an industrial designer, that was my first job. If I had a new customer that came and said, Benoît, I would like you to design whatever, a new baby stroller for me. Can you do something? It should be cheaper. It should be more beautiful. It should be this lighter. It should be the baby should be safer in it, etc., etc. My first question was, can you show me your factory, please? And can you show me where you make money? And then there's another story. Suddenly the stroller needs to be a little bit different. So it is. It is very a company, a system, and that's becomes rigid after a while, and too rigid. And if the circumstances are evolving, and this is the case today, faster and faster, at least that's the impression that we have. Maybe seen over 100 years to our period, maybe we'll say, well, that was not such a big revolution, basically. But industries, get more and more, stuck in their system, and it's very, very hard to change that. And if the culture is about we do it this way and we don't do it that way, well, in the end, you end up in an obsolete system. And that's where newcomers have a new ideas, and that's where you have disruptancies. Basically, it's an evolution that has always been there, and unfortunately, it follows the laws of the evolution of species. Not more than that. Products are following exactly the same path as species. They do it a lot faster, but the iterations are a lot shorter. But in the end, products follow the same rules, and so companies follow the same rules too. And if suddenly the environment has changed, but you are a dinosaur and there's not much trees anymore, well, what do you do as a dinosaur? Well, maybe you disappear, or you shrink, or whatever you do, but you'll need to eat grass now. Well, my neck is too long now because it was made for trees. It was not made for grass. You see, so that's what's happening. And it happens in all industries, and and that's the beauty. I have to say that's the beauty.
I don't get to tell a lot of those stories, but I'm always interested in exactly what you're talking about, the industrial processes, the design process, and different companies are set up in totally different ways. And the difference between what a lightly tooled company and a heavily industrialized company in the watch space can do internally is vastly different. And you have everything in between. And as a consumer, if you understand what they're capable of doing, that of course explains their stuff. For example, some companies can only make movements, no cases, no hands, no dials, and only the movements are cool and the rest is boring. Some companies do the opposite. And how they make new cases and how they do all these things, do they have the ability to make their own tools in-house? I remember I was to some companies in Germany and they're like, oh, we're awesome because we make tools. And most people wouldn't recognize, well, if you can make tools, you can make new parts quickly. So just having a factory without being able to make new parts from the factory limits you. So all anybody ever wants to do is make new dial colors because they can't change anything else. Now
they don't need to. Frankly, they would change if they had to, but they don't need to. There's the ecosystem of watchmaking. If you're in the middle of it, you don't need to change. You're in the middle of the ecosystem. You just keep on going like you are. We, as an independent brand, we are at the edge of it. And when you're at the edge of an ecosystem, you need to adapt. And that's what we do as Ressence, but I think many of my colleagues as independent watchmaking are doing the same in a different way with another extension of that ecosystem. But they all are, most of them, not all, but most of them have a foot in the watchmaking industry, but a foot outside also. And you can take a few of my colleagues' brands and you will see that, yes, they are watchmaking companies for sure, like we are. It's very complex watchmaking, very precise. But on the other hand, they are with a foot in another world. They are trying to bring something new inside. They're bringing a new vision, a new something. That's why they're there. That's why they're relevant. And that's why I hope we are relevant, because we also try to be in two worlds, and create something new with these two ingredients.
Last question we have time for, and this has to do with the actual topic of industrialization and the ability to get parts made and things like that. By your estimate, from your experience, in the future, is it going to become more or less possible to get parts made? I've seen different types of expansions and contractions in the market of suppliers and the companies that make all the various movement parts and case parts and all the exotic little elements. From your experience, are there more or less options becoming available when it comes to getting that stuff made?
It's I cannot really answer that, because what we do is so different from anyone else. The technologies we need, the machines we need, you don't need them for normal watches. If I say that most of our parts are made on 5-axle machines, I can challenge you in a mainstream brand how many 5-axle machines they need. They need 0, because the watches have been designed to make with a 3-axle machine. Yeah. The movement is a 3-axle machine. The case is a 3-axle machine. There is no 5-axle where we have a completely 3-dimensional structure. The watch is a 3-dimensional system. There's no watches in mainstream brands that are 3-dimensional. They're all 2D, maybe 2D and a half. Means that everything is parallel to each other. Every axis is parallel. All the rest is 90 degrees perpendicular.
It's how complicated the parts are. That's what it comes down to.
When you have a curved dial, well, everything is under an angle, of course, and so you cannot mill that with a 3-axle machine. So I cannot really answer. Because I am only dealing with subcontracting or companies that are specialized in extreme parts, I would call it, extremely technical parts. These are my main subcontractors I work with. And yeah, they will be there, but we will always be a small portion of the industry, because when you address these people, for sure your part is going to be at least 10 times, maybe 50 times more expensive for the same functional part that you would have in a normal watch, just because the whole chain is completely different. And you need other machines, so you need other people, you need better trained machinists to run these machines. The materials we use are a lot harder, are more expensive, etc., etc., etc. So all this adds up, and in the end, we are in a bubble or in a small section of the industry, and I don't have so much contact with, let's say, the mainstream big productions where things have been done the same way for 50 years. They will move on like that until there's another crisis and everyone wakes up and say, oh, we can't make exactly the same watch again this year. What should we do? And then it's going to be crisis. I don't think it's going to happen again, because most people don't buy a watch, they buy a brand.
Yeah, thank you so much for that answer. I think it's interesting in sort of your particular little slice that it's hard to see, but I think if you read between the lines, you recognize it's a fragile ecosystem. There's clearly not that many companies that can do it. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is that similar to maybe the industry that makes computer processors, to make watches requires a thriving ecosystem, as you keep saying, of different types of companies to supply to one another. Layers of complexity and industrialization must exist for any one company to make the complete watch product, whether it's a standard watch or something with a lot of original parts and special systems like yours. And it's, I think, a manifestation of a well-developed civilization, right? And of course, a mature economy for that entire supply chain to exist, but it is fragile. And, you know, in a world where civilization is re-emerging, it ain't making watches anytime soon, right? Like that's way down the road with like making computers, because it requires so many pre-existing industries to exist and thrive.
Sure, and you see the ecosystems in Switzerland, because that's, I think, the only real physically, geographically spot where you have this specific ecosystems. And then I'm talking about the industrial ecosystems. You have probably visited a few of them, but no one does everything. For example, we have components. They pass 15 companies before they end on the bench of a watchmaker. 15 companies.
Wow.
So it's 15 times the risk something goes wrong. It's because they're very specialized people. And when you are at the extremes of what we do, you have to have very, very specialized subcontractors that can do only that. They do it very well, but they can only do that. And so you have one guy that does this, and another guy that does that, and another guy that does that. And so you have a long chain of companies that are following each other to get one part made. And
that's why the Ressence watches cost what they do, because 15 specialized companies need to be convinced, hey, could you make 100 of these small, incredibly complicated little parts? Just 100. That's all the time we have. I recommend you check out the RessenceWatches.com website. This has been the Superlative Podcast interview with Ressence founder Benoît Mintiens. Benoît, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ariel. Thank you. Bye.